As you probably already heard, this month, the month of May, is dedicated in Startup Grind. I'll tell you a little bit about Startup Grind soon. It's all about, as you can see, Women's Month. So usually when we bring a speaker to speak to an audience just like that, unfortunately, I think 90% of the chances it's going to be a man. We're going to find out why is that, okay? Because that is why we created SGu Women Month. And a big question that I'm going to ask two of our speakers is why do we need actually a Women's Month? All right? Now a little bit about Startup Grind for those of you who don't know us. We have our country manager right here, Shachar. Nice to see you, sir. We are the first Startup Grind University in Israel. Startup Grind is a big startup community. It's about 6 million, right? Entrepreneurs worldwide? 3.5, sorry. Who's counting, actually? In how many countries, Shachar? You know the statistics better than I.
600 cities.
600 cities around the world. That's it's quite big, all right? And what we basically do is we try to create a community which is based on give first. All right? If you want ever to get something out of whatever, you need to give first. That's what we believe. And if you give, the karma is already over there, and you're going to get a lot in return. So I would say in the end of this nice meetup, let's take like 15 minutes and let's make a drill. Like everybody needs to speak at least to 10 people that he doesn't know or she doesn't know. Sounds good? Excellent. So without further ado, let's start, and I'm going to call our first speaker, Professor Dafna. You want to say something, Shachar? All right, kulu tamam. Okay, so first speaker, Professor Dafna. Nice having you here.
Thank you.
Okay, my own mentor. All right. Professor Dafna, let's start by telling something that I think most of the students, I think all of these are your students, it's quite fun, don't know. You are an entrepreneur yourself.
Okay, so first of all, again, welcome everybody. So these are entrepreneurial students. I mean, most of them are entrepreneurs, but for sure they are entrepreneurial and very creative. And if you look at yourself now, then we have a majority of men, right? Look at yourself now, around. It's a majority of men. So I think that this is a starting point for this meetup, to reflect upon that. So you asked if I'm an entrepreneur.
I know that you are. I don't think they know.
So again, it's kind, it has to do with definitions actually, more than a declaration. So I see myself as someone that is thinking entrepreneurially, creatively, and I'm trying to develop things. I'm very curious, and I'm a doer. I like to do things, not only to envision things. So in this sense, or by this definition, I might say that I'm an entrepreneur.
And what led you to become an entrepreneur?
Well, okay, it's a good question. I don't know exactly. I mean, I guess that there is a internal drive for people to do new things, to explore and exploit. People that, and maybe it's let's say it's my own mindset, which boosts me all the time and pushes me all the time forward, is to understand more things, to solve things, not to let things stay at the same position or the same situation, because I don't believe in a static position. I think that there's something that has to advance all the time. So I think that these are the main boosters for me. And I was a bit wondering before responding, because I thought maybe to describe the story or the narrative that again pushed me to start novels, for example, which is an entrepreneurial endeavor. And this is really something that is very practical and doesn't say anything about the internal layers. So practically, I came back from Canada where I teach during summer semesters, and I just sketched during the flight novels. So there was no novels at the moment, but I just sketched it. And I was so happy with the sketch. You know, I had 12 hours of flight from Canada to Israel. I was so happy. I didn't see any obstacles, any shortcomings. I was really happy about that. It was a kind of my baby. Like you can see here from the startups as well. They are very happy with the projects. And then I came to the former dean. I showed him, and I was so certain that this would be the moment that we shake hands and I start something that will, in the future, be called novels. And then he said no. He said that this was not a part of his scope, of the school, of the campus. And this was maybe the first step for me to enter into the entrepreneurial realm. Understood that, wow, there is no always yes. I couldn't believe how come, I mean, what happened, what did I do wrong? And then I had another, let's say, insight or revelation, which was really interesting, because the mind said, okay, he's the dean. I was, you know, a teacher, a lecturer. I think I wasn't a professor yet, even. I was just a doctor, PhD. And so the mind said, okay, be practical. I mean, he's your boss. Yeah, he's the dean. He said no, then do something else. But the heart said something else. The guts. I wanted to do it. And then my students, they came to me constantly and they said, you know, you're teaching us entrepreneurship. We want to have an incubator or an accelerator, something that would enable us to implement our ideas. So I was really in a conflict. And then I understood that I'm not in a conflict anymore because something in the guts was much more powerful than the mind. I don't know how did I risk myself so much. And I went to this woman there, and I told her, should we take a risk together? And she said, yes. And I said, okay. And then she said, Dafna, wait a minute. What are we doing? Okay, so this was the dynamic. And we started actually implementing the idea of novels in a situation, in an environment that said no. And when we knocked doors and we asked people to join us, they said, sure. Is the dean, does it improve? And I said, no, but they said, no, sorry, we will not risk anything. So we were on our own. We called more than 100 calls. There was no WhatsApp at the moment, so we called calls, telephone calls. We called people and we asked them to be mentors in something that we were not allowed to do. And they said no. And then there was the 101 person that said, well, sounds interesting. Would we go to Reviv and Celia and talk about it? And then, like in the stories, so we had the napkin where everything is written there. And he said yes. And then I said, okay, Dror, please help me. And, ask someone of your friends to join us. And that was the beginning. So it was very hostile. Then we were very, very successful at that day. At that year. Yeah, it was a year, complete year, academic year. We had mentors coming, we had students coming. We called it a course because we were not allowed to start a center. We acted like women entrepreneurs, which means, and I don't recommend it, okay, which means we didn't ask for money. We did it voluntarily. We stayed here until 10, 11, 12 at night, every Wednesday, what was it? Every Wednesday with our startups, with our mentors. We invited them to restaurants. We didn't ask for the money. We paid the money. This is something that women entrepreneurs tend to do, and I don't think it's logical, right, or this is the best way. We will discuss it maybe later. But we succeeded. And then the next year, when it was after a demo day, when we invited,
the first
and it
demo
was
day?
here,
The first
it
demo
was
day.
here. And when we invited investors and people from the community and so on to see our 4 startups, we had only 4 startups. Actually, we decided on 4 startups. We had our own, lessons to be learned afterwards. And then people said, okay, you have to start a center, and then we received support after a POC. But it was a kind of a challenging year.
And the rest is history, like
Yeah.
you said. Yeah. Now, Shachar and myself, we had a discussion with the person in one of the posts that I did to promote this event. And he, of course, he was a male, all right? And he was quite hostile towards us, and he said, why do you need a month for female entrepreneurship? Why do you need to promote female entrepreneurship? I mean, you don't promote female lawyers, you don't promote female, shoemakers or whatever. Why do you need to promote female entrepreneurship? I mean, why do you even need that as a research field?
Sure. Okay. So I have 2 different tracks that I want to respond to this. The first one has to do with the environment. Where are we living now? What would be your career? Okay. So if you look at the environment, if you look at the ecosystem celebrates entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity, discovery, and not only by starting businesses, not at all, but also by innovating inside your businesses. Additionally to that, when you are a professional, let's say a lawyer, an accountant, any kind of counselor for anything, okay? You want to work with people, and usually you would find that you work with people from the startup ecosystem. So you're always encircled and around entrepreneurship and startups and so on. If you want to gain competitive advantage in your professional roles, industry and so on, you have to be more entrepreneurial, you have to be more innovative. So either you want to start a new business, either you want to be promoted in your industry, in your company, or in your ecosystem. Either parts, you have to be more entrepreneurial. This is one response. So the environment is really, really entrepreneurial. The other response has to do with statistics. And we get, at least I, because this is my research team, one of them, so I get lots of statistic numbers on women entrepreneurship, and I figured out, all of us, we can see it in different data sets. So you see that, for example, there is one statistic which is really recent that says that 1 out of 15 founders is a woman. So 15 founders of startups are men, 1 is a woman. Okay, this is the percentage. In case of sole ownership, okay? And then if you delve into the statistics and you look at the technological startups, then you have 1 woman out of 44, okay? Now, if you accept, it's interesting, accept of healthcare, but in terms of development of medication, where you find more women, most of them are researchers from labs that want to commercialize their ideas. And then, but if you look at teams, then you see that still women are not the majority, of course, but still you see that there is a trend or there is a pattern that women start to get into founding teams. So women, they don't want to be the sole owners of a startup, or they are not there for some reasons. Even though the environment is very entrepreneurial, it means that women are, they do not follow the trends, right? They would not succeed like men if the environment is entrepreneurial and they are not entrepreneurs. But we see that they have a kind of they are more prone to get into teams that are combined from men and women, not only women, and then to start their own businesses in teams. So this would be something that I will respond this person, that it's a buzz, it's a route for a career, for a successful career. Why not providing everybody the chance, the opportunity? Why ignoring a specific, which is half of the population, a specific niche of women entrepreneurs that might be very successful in entrepreneurship, but they don't get there.
So this is exactly the next question. I read your research, of course, I read your articles. I haven't read the book that you've written about female entrepreneurship. I'm still waiting for the book about accelerators because this is my thing, okay? But in your research and your articles, you actually prove that women has actually skills and abilities to become more successful entrepreneurs than men. And yet, they're not there. Like, just like you say, I mean, we have like less than 10 women in the crowd. When we're talking about female entrepreneurship, like more male have come to listen about female entrepreneurship than female. Makes no sense.
Right. This is amazing to see the research about that, and my own research as well. They prove the same. So, for example, if we want to see, there are some kind of prototypes of who would be the best entrepreneurs. So there are some typologies and some categorizations. So you see that women in each one of those items is more successful. For example, let's take the competence of being more strategic and of being envisioning and having, designing a vision. So women, when they do the test, men and women, when they do those tests, women get high grades. Now, in terms of higher education, so gaining expertise and so on, so women are both better students. I mean, they get higher grades than men, in the higher education, also in school. And then they also, they complete their degrees. Well, men, we have much more dropouts and more male students. And then if you look at other, for example, in terms of innovation, there are some tests for innovation. And women, they do it like this. I mean, they are very, very good in innovating. So it's amazing to see that in terms of, let's say, theoretically, you see much higher propensity of women, in predicting by grades, in becoming entrepreneurs. And then you look at the figures and you see something that is really discouraging. And the question is why? And then usually we look at two different aspects of this phenomena. So one aspect would be the women themselves. So some women would say, this is not something that attracts me. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to start my new business. Not because I'm a woman, because I'm Hannah or Dafna or whatever. So this is not my personality. So we cannot here predict from being a woman or being a specific personality and then say something about women. But there are some women that personally they're not attracted like men, okay? And the second thing that we are usually we attribute to women is their family status. So women that are, let's say, mothers, or women that see their family responsibility as very demanding, they would think that being an entrepreneur would not allow them to make both of them in the best way. Sometimes you would see also kind of maybe influences from the family. So the family would say to the women in the family, don't become entrepreneurs because this is something that is really like attributed to men. So you will be, it's not feminine enough to be. So you have these types of excuses, or you have these types of reasons that come out every time. So it's real. I mean, when you ask people, when you ask women, some women would still tell you, well, I have children, I have babies, I want to become a mother. I would ask her, so, but this is what they say. So this is one thing. The other part would be how the environment treats women. And then we see, interestingly, that, for example, in terms of investment, and I'm very curious to get other ideas from our next speaker, but let's say statistics, okay? Statistics say that women find it much more difficult to get into I would say, to the arena of investment. I mean, not specifically to the money, because money is really hard to get anyway for entrepreneurs, but specifically to be more acquainted with investors, with VCs, with angels, to be more, I don't know how to say it in English, it's, well, cool, maybe. Okay, then with those people, I have this idea in Hebrew, but they don't understand. So, but to become more, like friends, like, so this is something that women find it much more, I would say difficult, but I'm not sure where difficulty comes from. What's the root of difficulty? Would it be the root which is internal, so women would not try to be part of this gang, investor gang, which is usually comprised more of men? Or is it something, maybe even latent, that men, as investors, would put women aside? But this is something that is really found. So women find it very difficult to get money. And this is one thing. And the other thing is the interesting thing of trust, which is really, really interesting and unfair. When you ask people, okay, the ecosystem, you ask potential suppliers, potential customers, potential workers, you ask, would you like to work in a company that is originated by women or men? Both women and men would say men. Okay? This is amazing. Both women and men would say, well, men are more trustful. Maybe there are some, I don't know, maybe it's very generic, okay? Maybe it's in different verticals or niche, like cosmetics and so on, or maybe fashion and so on. Maybe you would find more trust on women's led businesses, but most of them would say men.
But something bothers me. I'll tell you the truth. And I'm a male, right? But still it does bother me. Like in 2017, we had 38% of the founders in Novus, they were female. In 2018, 42%. But when you look one day after Novus, the cohort finishes, all right? Like the majority of the female, they drop out. So if you're talking about getting an investment, that's okay, but those female already entrepreneurs. They're trying to get investment, they're not really successful in that, that's okay. But I'm talking about female who actually got into becoming an entrepreneur and decided, you know what, that's enough, I'm done. As opposed to most of the male founders that we have in Novus, that keep on going, they take risks, they try to develop their business, and if you see our Hall of Fame, we only have like, I don't know, yeah, like 15% maybe female.
Right. Yeah, it puzzled me as well. What I do usually, I'm very I would say, punctual about having the right balance of students, male and female. So you know that because you are in the selection process with me and with the others in Novus. Usually we make a call and we say, okay, who wants to be an entrepreneur? We receive usually 200 applications from the campus. 170 would be men. And then what we do is that we call our students. And then the female students, and we tell them, why don't you come to our selection process? And most of them would say, well, I don't have a good idea, I'm not a specialist. And then you see the men, the students' men, they don't have ideas as well, and they are not specialists as well, but they say, you know, I'm the right person to be here. And I appreciate it. And I said, okay, if you are the right person to be here, then prove it. Come here and prove it. And I would like to see women saying that. So you see in Novus more women than the ones that are then maintaining or sustaining their businesses, because I'm pushing them. You know, it might be, maybe it's not a natural, situation or not a natural dynamic, but I'm pushing them, come to Novus, and then try it. And then afterwards, unfortunately, I'm not with them, and you, Novus team, are not with them anymore. And then you see the natural trends, which still have to be, worked out and managed by all of us, women entrepreneurs, professors, people from Novus, and you, that you are the ambassadors, to push it forward.
So for the next phase of our discussion, I would like to bring our next speaker, Nitzan. Please, you join us. Well, Nitzan, tell us a little bit about you being a serial entrepreneur.
Okay, step by step, let's do this. First of all, hi, my name is Nitzan Gal. I'm the CEO and co-founder of clique.ai. I would love to share more about the startup now, after, whatever I want. The stage is mine?
Exactly.
Okay.
Your floor.
Okay, so clique.ai is in the world of community management. I don't know how much you're here exposed to the world of communities, but it's something really strong today. I think Novus is a great example of an entrepreneurship community in Colman. So this is like a great way to showcase the power of a community, how a community can come together, really provide information and knowledge and share one another, really experience to grow together. And this world of communities is all over. So it can be from entrepreneurial communities in colleges, businesses today. Think of WeWork. WeWork is all based on community and the community mindset. Any business today that you know and appreciate has a community management. This is something pretty new, but it's growing. When we started to deal with communities in January, we took a look at LinkedIn and we searched how many community managers are out there. Like how many people have the title of community manager? How many people do you think we found?
50.
How much? 70?
50.
50?
95. Where? In Tel Aviv?
Community managers in general. How many people have the title of community manager?
None. Thousands. Thousands.
Okay, so in January, it was more than 8 million people. That was crazy for us. And actually, just for like updating the deck that we did a few weeks ago, we went back and checked. And what was the number now, like in the beginning of May?
1 million.
16 million. Nice. Did you check? Oh, okay. Nice. So 16 million, it's like, it's crazy growth. And this is like something for people who aren't coming from the community world. This is something really important to understand. That this is a market that not a lot of us understand, but it's growing. The community is really on a boost. And what we learned is it's becoming a position, like any other position that we know, like sales, like marketing. Now with each company, at least the good ones, there's a community manager. And what we saw is just like salespeople have Salesforce and marketers have HubSpot usually, community managers don't have any software to really provide their tools or like do their work efficiently. And this is exactly why we built clique.ai. We are really coming to revolutionize all the community world and provide them not only with tools to help them work, but with also the brain. That this is something that not a lot of people provide them. Insights, analytics, a lot more intelligence about what we're doing, especially because we're seeing that this is exactly the future. This is the future of how we're interacting with one another, how we're co-creating. A lot of the entrepreneurial or the independent world is all around communities. And it's not like a niche. In the United States, it's half of the population in 2020 will be independent. So that's crazy, and all of it together really allowed us to start Click and to have customers and to raise money lately. So a lot of great things that we can drill down soon. But before we do that, I would actually also love to understand who is the audience. And can I ask, like, for people who are entrepreneurs to raise their hands, just so I know who has a venture here? And the others are inspiring to be entrepreneurs? Nice, great. Okay,
so the first question to you is, you heard a lot that Professor Dafna just said. What do you think?
Wow. Okay, there's a lot of things there. In general, I agree with a lot of them. Mostly the statistic one that we can't argue with. I have a lot of things I think about women entrepreneurship. I do think it's something that we need to tackle, and it's great that you're doing that, but it's really interesting for me to understand still the numbers here in the room. That's something that we need to address as well, like where are the women and why aren't they coming? So the ones who are here, that's amazing to me. I think that's really great for you guys. But the question is, why aren't the others coming only to like sit here and learn? So that's something interesting. What I found is a lot of the times, again, I'll come back to communities. Community is one of the most helpful things to help people get inside this world. What happens today is that, like, maybe I'll tell you the beginning of my entrepreneurial road. It happened exactly in a room like this, but in the IDC, where I studied, and two guys from my class, I studied accounting and business management. So that was totally different than the world of entrepreneurship. And I studied it, and it was okay for the half semester, but then I started like to not feel comfortable in my seat. And then two guys from my class came and said, hey, we're going to sign ourselves to a competition in EY, one of the biggest accounting firms. Why don't you join us? And I was like, yeah, okay, like nothing too promising, like let's join and enjoy the ride. And that was exactly the way that I, first of all, learned what is entrepreneurship. Like we were, eventually another person joined, and then we were like 4 people going after school, sitting in different homes or coffee shops, just like brainstorming, thinking what is there that we can solve, what is there that we care about, and we can also like really create in the world, and how can we solve the problem that they gave us. So it was like the first experience that I had that I really enjoyed, of letting my mind free, like thinking creatively, understanding the power that I have as a human being here, not like sitting and giving life like to handle or to take the lead here, but to take the lead on my life. And on my life potentially of a lot of other people as well. So understanding this, that like not sitting and being like super passive, but the option and possibility and the privilege of the ability to really be active and do something about something that I care about. I got hooked to this world, and I was like, okay, tell me more. And then from that point on, it was this understanding that first of all, you have to find your tribe, right? You have to find the people that understand you, because before that, I think I had entrepreneurial mindset or skill set, but it was only when I found people who thought like me, who had the same vision, who understood that I wasn't like the weird one in the room, rather, okay, we all understand each other, let's start doing stuff. Let's start creating things that we want to create in the world. and this is like the first understanding of you have to be with people that you like, you admire, like-minded people. Like find your people that you think alike, that you can talk with, that can understand you, and then also like boost you, not like look at you super weirdly, but understand what you're doing and just like jump in and join the ride.
So Professor Dafna, listening to Nitzan for a second. What is different in this story that we cannot find in the general population of female?
I think that daring. So Nitzan dared. And then she was hooked, as she said. She liked it. She understood who she is. And it's interesting to see because we hear it a lot. I mean, people, even men, I mean, this is not gender-based, but people that are more entrepreneurial, when they get together with other people that are entrepreneurial, they say, wow, I'm not the only crazy person here. I understand that there are more people like me. And I think that I sense that this is something that you felt as well. So I think that daring, and this is something that I would like to see among my students that come to implement their visions, their dreams. And you know, it's interesting because here you would see also people that are part of a special program that we have, the A-Team. And they are here in order to be more global and in order to gain more networking and to be part of more communities. They are doing a very interesting job. And one of the things that we asked them to do is to make a dreams list and to find a figure that they would like to be like this figure, and then to approach this figure. And this figure shouldn't be from Israel, in order to enable them to communicate in English and so forth. And I think that this was a kind of an obstacle for them. It was quite challenging, I mean, to dare. And so you would see things very interesting. For example, some of them just wanted to approach, the CEO of whatever, of Alibaba, and the others would say that they can't, approach anyone because they are, they don't know what to say. They don't have the expertise. They can't speak English and so forth. So you see that daring is something that is an obstacle or a booster. And I think that this is the main thing that I sense from Nitzan.
Nitzan, do you actually think that there were some obstacles for you that you faced? That if I take one of the male entrepreneurs that has, let's say, a similar story to yours, okay, did not face?
So I think there's a lot. Some of them are conscience-wise, like some of them we can see and hear, some of them are subconscious. A lot of the time, and think of it again, like we all want to belong, right? It's like the basic need of human beings. And think of just understand the fact that we as female entrepreneurs usually don't belong to the room. Like usually we're a little bit of the room and everybody is not like us. And it's exactly, they did this cool research when they put like a lot of, I don't know, not bullies, but like people, like the more gangster guys in this movie theater, and then they brought like couples to go inside, and there was only like 2 rooms for this couple, and all the other rooms was like these gangster people, and also the men coming inside were afraid. Like think of going into a room with people totally different than you all the time being the different one. So it's like, this is the beginning of it, right? So again, they didn't do anything, I didn't do anything, but we're starting from a point that you're not one of everyone. So this is like a mindset thing that we all the time need to put aside. It's like, okay, never mind. One thing, let's put it aside, let's keep on. But just understanding that this is like an obvious thing, and from that point on, we have like more things that we're dealing with. And again, I think it's like, it's a lot of like cultural stuff, it's a lot of mindset stuff, a lot of the entrepreneurial skill set or state of mind is exactly the opposite than I think what people are like growing, teaching girls at the beginning, at young age. So there's a lot of no niceness or not being afraid of stuff or being careful too much. You need to be a lot of the things that we're teaching men to do from a really young age. So they have usually when we're coming to entrepreneurship around 20, so they have 10 years of extra experience and having this world of entrepreneurial skill set. From, I know it's maybe a gender stuff, but from really, think about it, that men need to go and learn from a really young age how to start hitting on women. And they learn from really young age, because of that, getting no, and dealing with no, and understanding okay, and then next time they're going how can they do it better? And it's from a really young age, this is a weird thing maybe, but they practice sales, they practice the resilience, dealing with no, understanding it, and I think it's really important, and this is why usually they're telling us, just go and be a salesperson for a little bit of time. If you want to be an entrepreneur, be a salesperson. Go and handle no. Make sure you know how to go and reach out to people these crazy people, and what will happen? And then once you do it a few times, and you're getting no, and life goes on, and sometimes you're learning how to create a yes from this no, so you're getting a lot of confidence in this world, and understanding that nothing will happen if it's a no, but sometimes good things will even happen because you can make for a yes. And so it's only a beginning point, and then from now on you can do so many things. So this is also another example of something that we're taught differently and skills that are building. So when you're coming to an age that you have these courses, and then women and men can go and start where the basics are different. We have a lot of skill sets that I think we were taught differently. And again, I'm not saying it to whine about it, but this is what's happening at a younger age, and it's really important for us to deal with it on a younger age as well. But now, as women, I think the most important thing is just coming together and really helping one another, and I'm seeing that as a really good potential solution for this thing.
Well, we're halfway through the meetup, and I thought that I'm going to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm actually quite discouraged. I'm even more discouraged than I was when we began. Yeah, I mean, very, so what is the answer? What do we do? I mean, I don't want to have next May another SGu Women Month.
You don't want to have what?
Another SGu Women Month next May. I want to tell Shachar, you know what, we don't need that, right? But we do need that, and then I'm not getting any positive feedback.
No, don't take it as negative. I think there's a lot of positive stuff happening, especially because there's a lot of more women in the industry, a lot of things happening. So I hope you're not going out of it super unpositive. There's a lot of things that I think we as women should take on ourselves. It's a lot of changing the mindset. I really believe that women are much better than men. I'm sorry. But I really believe in that, and I'm seeing that. I'm really seeing that, and it's exactly the research that you talked about is exactly that. They're more creative, they're not the normal path, they do things differently. Emotional intelligence is, if you think about it, usually we're saying that someone is sensitive, right? It's women are sensitive. But through sensitive, you learn how to be emotional, and emotional intelligence is one of the main things that leaders need today. So we have that. And we have a lot of other great skills that we were also taught differently, but we have that now. And what's happening in the market, as I'm seeing it, especially through the community world, is more about collaborating, for example. And this is also something that women are amazing at, and men don't understand nothing at. So there's a lot of change now, right? So the market is also changing. So if you think of why women, I love the example that you gave, that also women and men want to work under men. But it's because that until now, if you think about it, the leaders that we knew, there weren't a lot of women leaders. And the ones that we do have, there were women that was supposed for the last 20 years to climb the ladder and get there. And a lot of the time what happens is because they needed, because eventually they were successful, it means that they had to to level themselves with the men. They needed to be super aggressive, super take a lot of attributes for men and be really competitive, right? So there's a lot of things that they needed to do in order to succeed and get there. So the examples that we had were like really bitchy women on top. And I think now, as the world is changing and as more and more women are jumping and saying, hey, I can do this too, like I can play this game, and trying it out and understand what's happening and just like going out there and stop living in this perfect world of everything should be perfect and everybody should love me, and like, let's get real and let's enjoy life and create stuff and make stuff that matter. So there are more and more women jumping on that opportunity, and thus the market is changing, and suddenly you're seeing more and more women out there, and you're learning that business can be managed differently, and that leaders can act differently, and that women leaders can be different. So there's a lot of change, but it's happening like any big change, it's happening slowly. And it's just, I think, keep on going. Each one and each step just needs to keep on going and just like lift the other one that they have all the time up, and just really changing the market. And I think also male and investors, male, I think they're also starting to understand the power of female founders. It's the beginning as well. But as long as we're continuing to show them like strong female founders who aren't afraid to dream big, to really go after their goals, really do something meaningful, I think they're starting to see more and more. So it's becoming normal, right? It's all about normal. It's all about how we're perceiving stuff. Until now, they saw like once in a million a female, and if you think about it, the role of investor is just to like calculate the opportunity here, and just dreaming of it, like, how many female do we know that super succeeded that we want to count on a female endeavor now? Not a lot. So this is like a mindset issue that we're changing. But as long as they're seeing more and more females, more and more successful stories, they're opening their eyes to other normal opportunities, and really starting to invest more in women as well.
You said something really nice, and I want you to define it. Define the power of female entrepreneurs, of female founders.
Define the power?
Yeah. I mean, you say the power, I mean, they start to understand the power of female entrepreneurs or female founders. Define that power.
No, so I think exactly what I started to say before. There's a lot of skill set, a lot of know-how, a lot of different understanding that we're bringing to the table. Like if you think about most of the startups, you know, from guys are pretty much the same. There's not a lot of innovation. Like I'm generalizing it totally, right? Just for the sake of the conversation. But a lot of the times it sort of seems the same. It sort of feels like they hack this cyber thing and everybody's there. They hack this cannabis thing and everybody's there. So it's like sort of going with the flow. And a lot of the time I'm hearing male entrepreneurs don't want to, like they're all the time going back to the, what do you call it? Don't remember the word. But, the success stories. They're going back to the usual case studies that they know worked, and then doing pretty much the same. And also what I'm seeing is that male entrepreneurs, and this is something that you should take because I hope it's not a gender thing, but it's really important, find it really, really tough to be to be like in touch with their venture and open to small pivots, like to change what's happening. I see a lot of amazing male entrepreneurs raising a lot of money and then doing this venture, but you can see from the side that something isn't working, but because they have a lot of ego, because they're sure of what they're doing and they promised it to someone and they know what they're doing and they're selling it, they're not listening to the crowd, to the customers, to the market. And then we're seeing it more and more now, A lot of ventures are failing just because the leaders weren't there to pivot fastly and to get in touch with the market and understand where it's going. Whereas women are really good at that. We're really good in listening and hearing the sub-context of stuff and hearing what people aren't saying. A lot of the time we would go out of a conversation, of a meeting, and we really saw the difference between what the male co-founders got to what the female co-founders got. So the male co-founders got exactly what was said, right? Someone said, oh, this is really interesting. They were like, oh, they're interested. But of the female, like, you can understand more. You can understand, okay, interested, but maybe even more than that, but they try to make it like mellow, or the opposite, or something didn't work for them, and then what would be best? Like to go out of a room and think everything's perfect? That's an option. Or to go out of a room and hence what's the problem? What's going on? What do I need to change and how can I change it fastly to make it amazing as I want it to be? And this is something that I'm seeing more and more women open, and like this is what we do. Like we hear stuff, we understand stuff, and usually the things that are between the lines, and I think that is really important in entrepreneurship. So this is like some of the things I think that is changing, and I think this is the reason why we'll see more and more female entrepreneurs with really good businesses. And also this is something that we need to change. We need to show that different characteristics create different businesses, but successful as anything else, and sometimes even more, right? So this is up to us to prove this along the way more and more, and then give more inspiration to the new people who will join the club.
So actually, if I would ask you to help us, okay, help us out, keep these women as entrepreneurs, would you tell them that, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Okay.
No, seriously, what do you think? I mean, how can we convince them to basically take a risk and keep going with their businesses and then...
So I think like a lot of things, you need to do a reverse engineering. You can't, like, it's not like sitting in the last year, and I'm not talking about this program, I'm talking, for example, about the Zell program, actually. It's like the last year, and everybody needs to go through all the studies and then get to a point where they want to be accepted to this program. And I remember hearing all the time a lot of women feeling that it's not for them, and they're not sure, and they don't have this skill or that skill or enough grades for that. A lot of different things about the fact that probably they're not ready, or like we know in any position in the market, men will like go ahead and send an application if they have like 60% of the qualifications, and women won't do it, I think, when they have like 90% of the qualifications. And sometimes even like 100 and more. So this is exactly the reason that it won't happen, because we need to have like we have this really long checklist of what we have to have in order to feel good and doing the next step, that a lot of time we just don't do it. So like this is the problem, right? But one thing is to solve it at the end. The other thing is to understand that this is something that needs to be taught, that needs to be experienced by women. And then I would personally go back, and I'm not sure, but just think like, okay, how can we make sure that women, since the moment that they step in this school, that they feel comfortable with entrepreneurship? And one example for this, I think that I know is happening, I'm not sure here, is like a female entrepreneurship club from day one. Like, you don't have to have a venture, you don't have to have anything, but you just have to have the faith of being an entrepreneur one day and join the club. Just come, let's sit together, let's think about stuff. Again, I'm not the one that believes only in women clubs. I think it's really important to have a mix and learn together. But at the beginning, I think it's really important. I think a lot of the time, a lot of women, this is exactly, there's like also these studies about like just raising your hand. Women won't raise their hand while it's like a room full of men. While if we take most of the men out of here, there will be so many questions, so many hands, like when like general question openings, right? It's a lot of things, and so it has to be simultaneously. We can't expect everything to change in the same time, but we have to do a lot of things simultaneously. So we're starting from a really young age to teach people different skills and help them understand, and like from video games for women from really like young age, so that's great. But then we have these cool clubs that you can join and courses here. But this is sometimes like in a later stage in the studying, but let's do something in the middle. Let's allow female entrepreneurs to have this space just to talk, just to brainstorm, just to start having another person there that understands you. This is one of the most important things. I have today a lot of mentors. There are usually male mentors. And I go with them with a lot of problems. I'm like, hey, what do I do here? What do I do here? And I get really smart answers. But a lot of them aren't relevant. Because a lot of them I can't even start to explain, like, this is not how it works. Like, this isn't a conversation, because there's a lot of stuff that I need to handle in the relationship that is different than what they know and what they needed to handle. So, like, on top of all the entrepreneurship layer, I think we have to have another layer, and this is why it's sometimes even more difficult, but I know that the good ones are doing that, but have another layer of woman intelligence, like understanding even more than what you need to understand in the room, get the investors, get the co-founders, whatever it is that we're doing as entrepreneurs. There's another layer of woman understanding that we all the time have to have and keep. So this is something that we're all the time doing, and this is why it's really important to stay sane, to have other female entrepreneurs who get you, who understand. Maybe they're like in a totally different market, but I can go to any female entrepreneur that I know, and she like immediately understand what I'm going through, and probably had the same thing a month ago, and you have this conversation suddenly, and you have someone to learn from, and you have like the ability to even teach one another and to grow together, and not like feel you're alone in the world and probably just like stop doing it eventually.
So, Professor Dafna, before I give the audience a chance to ask you guys some questions, I want to sum up this conversation. Show me, please, the light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, again, it's very interesting in terms of research here, because research is discouraging. Numbers are worse now in Israel and in the world. I mean, and in the States. We have more men. The majority are men. Women are reluctant and hesitant to start as sole owners of businesses, and if they do, they go to businesses that are at least theoretically or potentially less profitable. So they go to those niche and to those industries that are more female related. So these are statistics. And this is the reason that I, in my very small role, is trying to encourage and to support our ecosystem and our community to embrace women as well as men. I mean, you know, it's a balance, and I think that everybody wins when we are together. So I'm not sure about the women's club. How would it be implemented here, or what would be the effect? But I'm sure that being together, maybe equal numbers would do something that is very effective for both sides. So this is statistics. But then at our daily work, and you know that since we are in the same again environment, we speak with women, we speak with students, female students, and they are very excited to be entrepreneurs, and they want to do that, and they have to dare. So we are there to enable them to dare, to facilitate dareness, whatever it is called, and to enable them to maybe to support them and to, you know, back them and tell them that this is okay to try, to fail, to be less or more successful. That's fine. Just experience it and see if you like it or not. And actually, this is the same thing that I would do for male students in terms of entrepreneurship and any other profession as well. So the light would be in our daily experiences. Statistics are still really concerning.
All right, so it's your turn, guys. I hope the ladies have a question, but it's okay to get guys. Any questions?
No? So wait.
So, to be an entrepreneur, it's a risk. We all agree about that. And we hear a lot that people, especially women, are afraid to get into this business and this environment because they don't feel comfortable, like safe. And I want to ask you, how do you step this problem? How did you say to yourself, okay, this is what I do, I really believe in what I do, and I think it's gonna work, and how do you have this confidence of doing that?
I think it's like small steps. I didn't find myself like here studying, 5 years ago in a similar class and just like saying, yeah, this is my world, I'm going to do it. I think it's like really small steps. It's a muscle, right? It's a muscle like any other muscle. The ability to think differently, the ability to create, the ability to really innovate. It's not something I think that we're like born with, but it's something that we're studying. And as long as I took part in more and more courses and more activities and more stuff around innovation and around entrepreneurship, that I slowly, and like it's really slow, it's a path, became more and more accepted of it and comfortable with it. And then the confidence came of, okay, I know what I'm doing here, I'm creating stuff, I'm actually like doing similar stuff like any other entrepreneurs in the room, so, and sometimes even more. So I think the confidence is something that you need to build. It's not like a sudden thing, so don't even expect, right? Don't expect to sit in the same space that you're always sitting and then having this vision or opportunity and just like, it won't happen in a day, right? We need to really evolve this muscle again and again. Go out, do all the time small steps. Start with really, going and thinking out loud with a group of people in your class, like, let's just imagine, let's just like use our time at college, which I think is super inefficient, and do something practical and make value of our time here and of our super valuable network that once this is ending, like you're losing this network and of course you'll gain new one. But this is a really great network. This is a really great baseline of people who can think similar, who can really create, who can really have the same sort of time to spare on more things, and just like sit after school and just pretend you're building a startup. At the beginning, this is what I did. Like in the Zell program, I felt it's like a playground for startups. The understanding that nothing will happen in this year if I fail, right? It was like, just go out and just start creating stuff with not a lot of, heaviness of the understanding that you can do whatever you want, exactly what you said before, like nothing will happen. Just play with it, just try, just feel it, understand. And I think that once you will, and once more and more women will, you'll be so hooked to it, like, because it's fun, it's great. It just feels like it's not for us right now, so we're not going inside this crazy world, but it is, and we're great at it. So we need to have the courage just to do the first step. From that point on, it becomes more and more easy every time, again and again. And also here, speaking with you here, I have to say that 6 years ago, I wouldn't do it for nothing. Like I won't go on stage, especially not talking English, especially not something that I prepared for before. And the Zell program taught me that. I was really afraid to go on stage, and afraid to the amount that I didn't want to apply because I knew I needed to go on stage. And I think this is something really important to understand, that it's not like any entrepreneur in the room, it's not like a clear path, right? I don't think anyone here has like this clear path of everything works great and nothing is, you're not afraid of nothing. Everyone is afraid of something here in the process. But I think a lot of male are just like, okay, like I'm doing that. And sometimes when we're afraid of something, we're used to back out of it. So I think it's the understanding that everyone's here afraid of this process or different steps in this process, but you just have to do it. You just have to go and evolve yourselves through the learning of this thing that you're afraid of, because mostly it's just because you don't have the experience at the beginning. But once you do it for the first time, the second time, or the third time, it can be natural to you, and you can find this whole new world that you didn't think was possible before.
Thank you.
Questions? More? You got it? Kenzo.
question is for Professor Dafna Kariv. If you can share more of your experience teaching in Montreal that led you to think about Novos, and like one experience that you had there that just connected the dots that we have to have that here in Israel.
Yeah. It's interesting that you're asking specifically about Montreal because there was something there. I think it has to do with culture. I didn't explore it deeply, so I'm not sure. But this is something that I felt or sensed that they treat everybody very similarly. Include not necessarily genders, but also in terms of ethnicity, religious, and so on. They have a different type of maybe mindset, or maybe again culture, or yeah. So and then when I saw their incubator, which has been developed greatly now, and it's completely different from the one that has stimulated something inside of me. This is something that I saw. I mean, I saw everybody was treated similarly, and women and men, and there were Jewish people and Arab people and religious people, and there was a variety, Indian people and so on, and they had different accents, and everybody, and there was a vibe, and everybody was very happy, seemed to be very happy. And I thought that this has to do with entrepreneurship because the place was a center for entrepreneurs. Now I know that it wasn't really what we call a center of entrepreneurs, it was more of a kind of a community, actually. Because nobody taught them entrepreneurship, nobody expected specifically to see a startup. They even didn't have a demo day. So what exactly was an incubator there? But still, we defined it, we call it, you ask for definitions. So they called it an incubator, and I was really affected and influenced, and I was very happy to see everybody happy. So I said, I want to duplicate this happiness here, and since everybody is treated similarly, and I'm really very sensitive about that, especially in terms of gender, but not only, that I wanted really to have it here. And I was so naive, and this is something that has to do with entrepreneurial spirit. I was very, very naive. I think that I still am. And I was sure that if I see something that is really optimistic, that is really makes good and to the world, to the society and everything, so everybody sees it as well. So this is my responsibility to make the plans correctly and to show everything. And as I said before, it's interesting because when I presented the plan to the former dean, there was nothing about budget. And in a naive way, I would say stupid way, I said to him, it's a him, okay? I said to him, I don't need money, okay? Which is, I don't know why did I say, I just wanted so much to have this set of entrepreneurship and to have everybody happy there, that I sold myself, without any kind of engagement from his side. And then I was really surprised to see that he doesn't understand that. And I don't blame him, of course. This was probably something in the way that I pitched. But I think that if I go back, there was something happy. There was something free. There was something that is not boring. I think that even studying here, which all of you, that I love it, and this is my passion, but studying here, or let's say from my perspective, teaching the conventional way is really, really boring. Okay, so I don't do it much. I only have one course that is boring, okay, which I like it very much, Niuli Zamud, but still, and the others, sorry?
I resent that. It's not boring, right?
It's not boring in terms of content, but the conventional way of delivering content is, it's traditional. So I felt that in this center in Montreal, you may do everything. I mean, and you can teach differently, and you can test things, and you can fail, and you can, and you are not bored. That's it. So sometimes not being bored with me work very hard. Be sometimes discouraged. Well, there are also shortcomings there, but it's something that pushes me, and this was my maybe the driver for me, the inspiration.
May I ask a question? Oh, you said my name previously.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This will be for Nitzan. Hi, my name is Nitzan Gal. I'm CEO of SGu. And I would like to ask you a thing. You said that clique.ai raised recently funds, and you also said that women can see subtle signs between the lines that the male members of the team couldn't see. So what would you say? Did it have a huge impact of selecting the VC that you got the funds from to go with you as a partner, or would you say did it have the impact of being a female in the team that said that I want to be partners with that VC and not that?
I think it's not only with investors, right? So it's in a lot of things, especially in the product, and especially in the venture itself, that you're seeing all the times and hearing and understanding what's happening and where you should go, because it's never a clear path. You have to all the time understand the market. As for the investors, it's more about like hearing their feedback and their insights and understanding what they're saying. So you go to investor at the beginning, and the first one will probably would be a disaster, because you're going the first time and pitching something that you don't know how to pitch or what to do. And so you just have to have the few first ones not relevant to you for real, right? So this is like something that I started with. I went to people who weren't really relevant to us, just to study exactly, like sometimes they're telling you when you go to a position, like when you want a job, go do a little bit of interviewing before you go to the real position that you want. I think I took that for my venture here, and I went to a few VCs that I didn't think were relevant, or they're like super big or super small that I didn't think they're relevant. And exactly like I said before, gained confidence for myself in this new interaction for me. I never went before and asked someone for money, right? This is something that I at the beginning, it wasn't like the first thing I did. I was like, no, I'm going to create impact. I'm going to create my venture. I'm going to create customers. And we did all that before having like $1. And we created a lot, and everybody's like in shock of how much we did without raising $1. So it's like a great thing for us as a company, but I knew at the beginning that I was just afraid to go to investors. I did everything I can. I just like did a lot of business stuff, a lot of business development, a lot of things that I knew in my power to do, and really created a company that are amazing instead of going the path of investors. But then there was like a great point in the company that we saw that we need to grow faster. It was like I couldn't not go to investors, and that's exactly how I started. Like, and I think I'm doing that. I think in everything, like gaining the confidence that I need for the real challenge. So just starting out and going to a few people at the beginning, and then hearing what they're saying. So they have a lot of. So sometimes you'll go and someone will say, "Okay, this is interesting, nice, let's talk," and then you go out of the room and you're like, "Okay, this is interesting, but nothing will happen eventually." And I think not only did I focus a lot about like hearing exactly what is it between the lines that they want to hear, I was not afraid at all to just like ask direct questions. Okay, I see, I get it. You see when someone isn't super excited at the beginning, and you get it. So okay, let's put it aside. Never mind. So you're not in the hat of investor. Become the hat of a mentor for me. What is it? What were the questions that you didn't like you have unsolved in your brain? Like tell me, just like speak it out. And then suddenly they were like super free of telling me. They're like, hey, but the size of the market, how much big is it? And then I like learned that I didn't have like this slide even of the market. What is it that the process of the brain of investor goes through in order to say, okay, check this one. And it's an all the time learning, right? So there's no meaning like the other. Each time I went in a room, the deck was different than the day before. My pitch was different than the day before. So everything needs to go really quickly because sometimes I have like 4 meetings in a day. So you need the ability to be really fluid and change quickly, but then you have to understand why. You have to understand what is it that didn't work, do a lot of small A/B testing, and really hear what's being said, what's being unsaid. And so I think that was like my takeaway of this, how this can help you in the startup.
Thank you. I would say that maybe most of the male issues would be they would be hearing but not listening.
But what? Hearing and not listening. Yeah, exactly what you said, yeah.
Thank you for your answer.
More questions?
Yes. We have a startup in the travel tech, and this is
In the what?
in travel tech.
Travel.
And after Renovus, we think how we can raise money in this, this field, because this is we have to get a lot of money for development. The software of the app.
And like,
What's your advice?
So it really depends on so many things, I guess. So I'll give you a really wide answer to your wide question. But I think for the beginning, I guess starting with an MVP that you have, probably showcasing what you're doing and how is it making a change or value to the world, right? Explaining how this one thing can do a lot more value once you have the ability to scale it and to create this software that you want to create. So, first of all, it's really doing the work in-house and showcasing already what you're wanting to do and not only go with idea outside. At the same time, it's just, first of all, a lot of networking, all the time, just talking, just going out there to a lot of meetups, a lot of conferences, just speaking with people. There's so many opportunities once you know how to network. And networking isn't going and saying, hey, I have a company, it does X, Y, Z, I'm looking for investors. It's really creating relationships with much more people in the industry. This is something that I found is really important and really valuable for me. A lot of the time today, if I think about it, my network works for me. And this is something that I think I'm not sure I would succeed in my startup if I hadn't this army of people who don't have any relation in the company, but just to Nitzan. And they care about me, and it's of course it's also the opposite, same thing, but the network here, and especially in Israel, I think this is why we're so good in entrepreneurial. We're just helping one another all the time and really creating connections, adding knowledge. So first of all, maybe I'll go back to your original question. I'll say what I did. I created a small fictive board of 3 people who are my mentors, how to invest and how to fundraise. Sorry. I didn't. So this is also something that I did. So I also created these 3 people. I went to 3 people before I went outside. I was like, okay, I'm going outside. Talk to me. What do I need to know? Right? So from the basics thing that I didn't have of the P&L and the good deck or a good one-pager, and then they sat with me and really also looked at it in a more experienced eye. And then, okay, now they were like, yalla, Nitzan, go to investors, go do it, you can do it. And I was like, yalla. And then I'm leaving the room and I was like, okay, what do I do now? What is it that you need to do? And so there's a lot of know-how around this. So first thing, it could be create a list of all the VCs and all the angels that you do know and that you can reach. Or create a list of all the people in your network that you know can help you reach them. For example, Dafna, I don't know. But there's a lot of people who are connected to people. So really create a list of how you can outreach to relevant VCs. And also take a look at other startups in your area and who they raised from. Just to get an understanding of who are the people who are investing in this and why. Or maybe this is the portfolio, or maybe this isn't good for you, but you can find something similar to them. So first of all, create this list. And then start, the best thing is really to get introductions to them. This is like the highest level of a good way to reach someone. If not, you can always do like cold emails. But a great way is really to create this pipeline of a lot of people who can create connections for these investors. So this is like, it's again reverse engineering. Like you want to fundraise X amount of money. How many people do you need to invest in your company? So okay, I need 6 people, I need 10 people, whatever it is. Okay, how many people do I know now? Just create this full list of people who can potentially go, but it's a homework, right? So who are they? How can I reach them? Like really create a good Excel or whatever it is that you want to work on, and then start to outreach, and then start all the stage of learning, of hearing, of listening, of understanding what's going on, and then all the time adapting your product, your story, the way you pitch and stuff like that.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why do you approach to the VCs, the founding? Did you approach to VCs that support in entrepreneurship startup, in women entrepreneurship startups, and invest in women-led startups and stuff like that? Like e-venture that support in startups that they have a women lead in the team. Did you thought about it?
It was never my strategy. Like I think, like at the end of the day, it's once I understood that I went to someone and I said like, hey, I can't go to someone and ask for money. Like I can't get myself to do that. And they gave me an answer that I was like, that changed the whole process from that point on. They're like, Nitzan, you're not asking someone for help. You're providing them the opportunity to jump on board and you be part of your big vision. So once I had this shift of mindset, I was like, yeah, you're right. It's like, it's exactly that. Like, why am I thinking that this is like so uncomfortable when I really believe in what I'm doing and the potential it could be really big. And like, if they don't understand it, it's like their problem, right? So once I changed this attitude, it was like really not different for me. I didn't think they should see me differently. And this is why I didn't want to look at them differently. It's like, I do know these different organizations, I think they're great, and I'm also speaking with a few of them, but it was never like a strategy of going just to them. But like really all of the market, especially because also there's a lot of knowledge there, just to hear their feedback. Like they'll give me no, I'll handle with that. But like hear what they say, because a lot of times they have more experience in this world. So from a lot of things, I think it's really good to just see the markets like as we want it to be equal and level the playing field. I think it's also good for us to see them the same.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. So, first of all, I have to say, Tal, you seems to be worried about women entrepreneurs.
Very.
So, I know that the statistics show that the amount of women entrepreneurs is lower than male. But at the same time, there is a big growth compared to the last year. Like the last research that I read that shows that the percentage of women is grown by 140%, which is a lot. So I really believe and hope that we are going to face at the next few years women entrepreneurship renovation. And for you, Nitzan, I have a question. So first of all, my name is Nufar. I have 2 small businesses, and I have 1 startup with Noya, which is in the construction field. But 2 small businesses is okay and it's nice. And I have to be honest, to go to the big world, it's a bit scary. So woman to woman, what's your most efficient advice for?
Small steps. It's okay. So what I'm like I'm Libra, so I have to create an equation to that. It's small steps, but at the same time, dream the biggest that you can. Like I think that's like, so it's dream as high as you can and just like believe in yourself and your ability to really change the world in whatever you want to do. and then do small steps in order to reach there. But no, I think we lack the, also this is like, again, a must, we lack the vision. Or, I think, you know what, I'll rephrase that. We have the vision, we just need to be more confident in ourselves to really reach that. Because I think when we close our eyes at the end of the day, we know what is in our potential to do. And we know that we can do so much things, so much better than what's happening today. We know that, right? So it's just like up for us to sort of prove that, right? Create that in the world, and we also have a lot of responsibility for the next generation. So I think it's both. It's not only for ourselves and like for really achieving the highest potential of what we came here to do in this world, but also understanding that our generation has a lot of importance and a lot of the ability to really change the next generation. So a lot of the things that I'm doing is like at the same time as what I want to do and how I want to see the world and what I want to achieve, and like the stuff that are creating like an equal motivation for me is also the understanding that we need more and more examples of phenomenal women who are doing so many stuff and succeeding in so many stuff. And we need, and this is exactly what made me came to Rishon Lezion in the evening with all the traffic. But really the ability to show one another and more people who want to join that this is super like reachable and non-reachable, that we have the power to do amazing stuff. We just need to start or to grow with it, right? So it's just like doing the steps, but I hear that you're doing a lot of these steps right now, so it's like jumping all in and a moment that you understand that this is what you can do and you can really create a lot of things and just go into it.
More questions?
Yes. Hi, my name is Ari. I'm a student here at the College of Management. Currently, I am not in any sort of innovation, but I've come up with a few interesting ideas during my path. My question specifically is more the trigger of, you said the skill set of entrepreneurism, right? You said it's a skill set that we learn, that we study, that we build, and we gain on the way. My question is, where is, like you're saying, it's also a comfort zone issue of kind of like leading out of the comfort zone and making big moves or going to investors, going to the big world. It's afraid of failure. I'm trying to ask more, where is the birth element of an entrepreneur? Is there any birth-giving talent of an entrepreneur that is maybe the drive and the trigger that is what most people do not have, I assume, that is kind of like what's leading them back? Is that something you could learn, or is it something that is just birth, naturally birth?
This is a really hard question. Do you want also to answer it? Do you have an answer?
Give me the best answer I'm already here.
Okay, so I'll start with that. I don't think it's like a birth thing. I think you can really teach and learn entrepreneurship by experience. This is something that there's a lot of the time I can see people, like you can see from where they started and where they're at now, and you can just see that this is something that you can learn along your life. And again, I don't think that like this is a checklist of what you need to have to be an entrepreneur. It's just something that you usually see in a lot of entrepreneurs. But maybe what exactly do you want to hear about? Like the birth or not birth? Or I don't think it's a birth thing.
It's more like, maybe I would paraphrase the question again, or rephrase it. It's more like you just said right now, so it's non-birth, but does that mean that I see entrepreneurs from then and I see them now? Is every entrepreneur meant to be an entrepreneur? Or is it like you see people get into a certain level and then they get to like a plateau? Is that plateau because they weren't taught the skill set of being an entrepreneur? Or is it a personal thing that they can't overcome? And is that something that is learned, or is it something that you were just born with?
Choosing.
I don't think it's achievement. Like some people just decide to do so many things and just not give up on anything. Just do and do and do. It doesn't matter what. That's something that is born, I believe, at least. Rather than.
I don't know, like, I won't give you a research-backed answer. I don't think it's something that you're born with. I see a lot of the time people waking up in different stages of life and understanding that this is something that they want to do, or this is their path for them, or they just experience a small thing here that opened up a huge new world for them. So I don't think it's like you need to grow with it all the time. We see a lot of people in different stages, and especially now, even the elder are waking up and leaving their normal day job and saying like, what am I doing here in the world? Like, what is my mission? What am I creating? I think there's a lot of, you need to have a lot of persistence and resilience to keep on being an entrepreneur more and more, right? I think this is something that's really important from the entrepreneurs that I do see. Keep on going a long time, because there's so many hiccups along the way, like so many no's, so many problems. You need like to have the ability and the resilience to keep on going time and time again, even though there's so much things happening. But what I think is that these people not only have resilience, but have a mission. They know where they're going. And I think this is exactly the difference from entrepreneurs that are motivated by like creating money or doing a quick exit, rather than entrepreneurs that have a mission, that know what they want to create and have this idea or a picture of what is it that they want to do, and then a lot of the times nothing will stop them from doing that. So this is something that I think that also helps in this journey.
Okay guys, so that concludes our meetup for today. And like I said, try to use the next 10 minutes that we have on our schedule to talk to somebody new that you don't know. Let's start building the community, all right? Okay, so thank you for joining us. Good night.